Most people think a death doula is someone who sits bedside and holds a hand while someone dies. And while that is a part of what we do, it's so much more than that. So, hi, if you're new here, my name is Death Doula Beth, and in this video, I'm going to break down with you what a death doula really does, how and when you should hire one, and how to become one yourself if this is the work that's calling to you. And stick around to the end if you're curious about training, and I'll point you exactly where to go. But first, what does a death doula actually do? I've done a couple other videos about this, but not all death doulas do the same thing. We do a wide variety of different things. Now, some death doulas will focus primarily on pre-planning, which is your advanced care directives, your living wills, your funeral plans, your funeral wishes, your legacy projects, obituaries, if that's something that you want to pre-plan. And that also can include your death nest, like who you want around you during those last final moments. Some death doulas sit bedside only. They hold vigil, you provide presence and emotional and spiritual support. Not to mention helping to relieve the caregivers and the family members and to organize the chaos so it's less crazy at the end. Now you have other death doulas who primarily work with the families after death, where you're creating rituals to help process grief and guiding in next steps. Now there are other death doulas who just simply educate. They teach others how and when to talk about death and dying, or they help teach others to become death doulas. So you can see here that death doulas wear many hats, but ultimately, we're all here to make a difference in the end of life world. We want to make this more meaningful, intentional, and less terrifying. And as a recap, a death doula is a non-medical professional who helps aid in all things death, dying, and grief, the end of life care that isn't normally talked about in everyday society. Because we live in a death-averse community and society, it's not really talked about in day-to-day form. And when we get there, it's like, oh my gosh, it feels like a crisis, unless it's something that we talk about intentionally within our own families and our own community circles. Another thing that I want to insert here too is that because this is not regulated by a specific organization or association, there is going to be a wide variety of death doulas out there. And it's important to know what you want to look for in hiring a death doula or bringing one in or even becoming one. There is a lot of information out there on Google Land, and I'm just another voice in the sea of death doulas giving my perspective on death doula work. Now, there is a common theme that I see in this world, and it's that they hire death doulas too late. And the next question I typically get is, when should I hire a death doula? So here's what I tell everybody when they ask me that question. The short answer is as soon as possible. Now, hiring a death doula as soon as possible doesn't rush the death process, okay? Hiring a death doula as early as possible gives support throughout the entire process, not just at the end. Now, we help create these soft spaces for these hard conversations, so it helps reduce stress, especially in the family circle. When we help plan ahead, there's less regrets, less stress, and more peace. And we all want that at end of life. Death is a traumatic experience, and if you don't know what you're looking at or planning for, or even know that you can plan for certain things, it can cause even more stress. So you're having compounded trauma on top of this trauma. And the unfortunate part is if you wait until the very end, the final days, you miss so many opportunities and a chance to build trust and clarity and calm. That early connection changes everything. You'll find a lot of death doulas out there trying to get the word out and educating more about the work that we do. You'll see many death doulas across social media promoting their books and their workbooks and their courses and all that stuff, just to try to get the word out so that we start talking about death, dying, and grief more, so that it's a more common conversation rather than something that we avoid. And let's be honest, we're all going to experience this at one point in our lives. So let's talk about it. So at this point of the conversation, you're probably like, well, how do I become a death doula? What do I need to do? Well, like I said before, there is no regulation when it comes to becoming a death doula. What we do know is that training is everything. You have to first recognize that there's a calling. Most death doulas know it long before they understand what a death doula is. So if you know that you have that calling and you feel it in your heart and in your spirit, you need to find a training that aligns with your values and your vision. Yes, you can be a death doula without any training. But the training is what's really important here. You want to find someone that aligns with your vision. I always equate death doula training to being a tattoo artist. A tattoo artist doesn't go to a school or get certifications in anything. When you sit down in a tattoo artist chair, you're trusting that they have done their due diligence. And so, same as us. We have gone through training and gone through different modules and experiences so that we are better prepared to serve and to walk alongside these families going through the most intense emotional experience of their lives. Now, there is one thing that I'll name out here. There's a lot of different trainings out there. I remember going through so many different websites and associations and just trying to figure out which training is the one that's calling for me. And I wish someone would have told me this earlier in looking for a training is find the death doula that you would like to emulate when you start practicing, because ultimately that is how you're going to best learn, right? I'm grateful for the training that I received from Suzanne O'Brien. I love her heart. I love the fact that she has this medical background and that I was able to learn more medical terminology from her. So it kind of scratched that itch of wanting to learn and grow in that sort of sense. But my practice isn't a medical based sort of practice. I don't serve clients in that sort of sense, but I know how to interpret the medical jargon that I hear so that I can better serve the families that I'm serving. So I can decipher what the nurses are saying when they come in and say all these big scary terms, and I can break it down in layman's terms. Just keep that in mind when you're looking at the trainings and the other death doulas out there that are offering mentorship and trainings in their own realm. Now, I did make a video before talking about the different trainings and what to look for, which I'll pop up. There it is. I'll pop it up there so you can go watch it after this video. But ultimately, you want to look for a death doula that you want to emulate when you're doing your practice. Now, shameless plug here. This is why I created my own online course, which teaches the emotional, practical, spiritual side of this work and actually how to start doing it so that you make a full-time income. I also go over the pre-planning and all the logistic things that go along with being a death doula. Now, if you're watching this before June 1st, I haven't launched it yet, so you still have time to get to the pre-launch sale. Get in my newsletter and you'll get all the details in the next newsletters. But if you have questions, feel free to book a call with me. Now, whether or not you're preparing for your own death or helping support a loved one, or you're just wanting to serve in this sacred way, know that you're not alone. If this video sparked something within you, follow that. Now, what I mean by that is start having the conversations, share videos like this in the circles that you run in so that we start having more of these conversations. They're so important to have. Now, you are going to die someday, but let's make sure it's on your terms first. And maybe you can help someone do the same. All right, be good to yourself. Bye for now.